Local and live, covering Franklin and Washington counties, it's Let's Talk Tristate with Tiny and Katy.
Let's talk Tristate.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Tri-State, powered by Home Right Windows and Doors in Waynesboro, the right choice, winner of the 2024 Best of the Tri-State Award.
Our first guest today, we have Ken Brookens and Amy Weibley. Yes. Okay, I'm glad I got that correct. From Franklin Votes, and you are both volunteers and board members for this organization. And this was something, to be honest with you, I wasn't familiar with Franklin Votes. So to walk us through what is the organization and how did it come to be?
Yeah, so Franklin Votes, it's a nonpartisan initiative driven by community volunteers with really our goal is to increase voter turnout in Franklin County. That's what we're trying to do, and we're trying to do that by making it easier for people to find information and resources to help them know how to use their right and their power to vote.
How do you, when it comes to the Franklin County, how it all pans out, we often hear registered voters versus those who show up, those who voter turnout is what we would call it. Do you have that number for Franklin County?
Yeah, so actually there's an estimated 20% of the population in Franklin County that's eligible to vote, but not registered to vote. So about 80% of the adult population that could vote is registered, and yet that equals about 100,000 people, which seems like a lot. But who actually goes to vote?
Right.
The average over the past 4 years, so going through from presidential election through to midterms to local, the voter turnout averaged only 43%.
Wow.
Yep, and it's even lower during non-presidential years.
Sure.
You get about 20 to 30%.
Right. And that's one of the goals that we're trying to get increased voter turnout, because it's usually those off years too, where you've got a lot more of your local individuals who are running in offices that are changing hands, as well as sometimes there's referendums put on. So it's trying to get people out constantly with it. It's not just important to vote every 4 years, it's important to do it every time, because you can make a difference with it, and it's making people aware of that.
And what are some things that Franklin Votes does to increase voter turnout?
Yeah, we provide a free website, franklinvotes.org, and we try to provide a myriad of resources for voters, how to register to vote, how to apply to vote by mail, but also resources so that they can be an informed voter. They can look up the candidates that are going to be on their ballot. They can find their polling place. They can also find a checklist for how to make a plan to vote. So there's a lot of great resources, and it's all nonpartisan. You know, politics nowadays, people can, kind of shy away from it because it seems like it's gotten very divisive. And we're trying to bring people together to realize it doesn't have to be divisive. You can do your own research and make your own mind and your own decision and use your right to vote.
This might be a silly question, but does every county have this type of organization, or is this specific to Franklin County?
Well, there are some other areas, but they're very few and far between. And we've actually partnered with, there's the organization out of Philadelphia as well, who does a lot of grassroots. So we've pulled off from some of that as well. And that's one of the reasons is in this area, because we have a lot of rural areas too. People don't know who's running for offices. And I myself, which was one of the reasons why too we talked about this, is where's one spot to go? Because we can tell people before as well, check your county courthouse website or check the individual candidate sites. But this was to provide one-stop shop where you can get all of your information about all the candidates. And as Amy had said, where do I vote? How do I get my registration done? It's trying to give you all those resources at one spot.
I think this is super important, and I can kind of relate to this because I recently moved to Franklin County. It was just a little over a year ago that I moved here, and I know when I moved, I got things in the mail making sure that I registered to vote, but I probably did it, sent it back, and I couldn't remember if I did or not. And just recently, Tiny and I were having a conversation, and I said, I'm not sure if I actually did register. I don't know where to go. Do I have to bring a card with me? And not that not that I don't know how to vote. Obviously, I've done it so many times, but in a presidential election, once every 4 years, you kind of forget everything that you have to do. Where do I go? So that I can imagine, especially for someone who's a first-time voter, that is a really, really important resource to have in the community.
Yeah, and just to get some questions answered too, like if you haven't voted before, or even if you have, but you don't vote, every year and you want a refresher on what exactly you need to do to be prepared. The other feedback that we get from people is, presidential election year. They know who they want to vote for president, but they don't realize or know the other candidates that are all going to be on the ballot.
Sure.
So we're trying to provide that resource. These are all the candidate positions that are listed. These are who your choices are. Here's how you can do some research to decide when you walk into the polls, you know who you're going to vote for.
Right.
But the other thing to note and help educate on too is you don't have to vote for every position that's listed on the ballot. If you truly only know about the president position and you just want to go vote for president, you can do that. You don't have to fill all the other bubbles. It's not like a school Scantron.
Right.
You've got to fill in every
Scantron,
bubble.
I haven't heard that in years.
I know, right?
And I can imagine that people do that, especially new voters, just maybe think about, well, this is who my parents are voting for, or this is, what my family always does, so I'm just going to follow in their footsteps. What would be your advice that you would give to voters?
Definitely, it's do your research. Number one, looking up the candidates who will all be on what positions and looking at what the positions do. So you know what type of person, like the role that they're going to play, to know what you're going to want to have that person be able to do. And then finding who best aligns with your values. If you are really interested, like for me personally, I care a lot about education and childcare because I have young kids. And so that is something that I'll look at for candidates and see what their positions are to see how it best aligns with me.
And you can find all that information on your website. You provide that for the candidates?
We provide resources to external sites.
Okay.
Yeah, we're totally volunteer-led.
But to your point with that also is all the candidates have been invited and are aware they can provide us with their link to their websites as well. So if you're looking for Donald Trump or if you're looking for Kamala Harris, you can go in, their names are there, you click on their name, it'll take you to their site. And that is the big key, what Amy had said earlier, is it's trying to make sure when you are doing your research that you find those that are geared to that are not, they're partisan, but that they don't have a bias to them. It's somebody that's independent, and that's our goal, is find those sites as well and list and provide those to you.
What a helpful place to go, because it is hard. It's hard to get the information, and it's hard to know where to turn to get it. What a wonderful resource that we have right here in Franklin County for that.
It is, and even as our group and the group that is on our committee, we're all from different age groups, different parties, but it's with one. The common goal is how do we get it organized so people can find this information. It's not we ourselves do not provide our own biases, our own opinions, but that it's finding those resources collectively and coming to an agreement.
I think there's so much. Some would call it misinformation, some would call it fake news, but there's so many places that you can consume quote-unquote facts. And I've always thought that one of the more dangerous things to our democratic republic is an uninformed, uneducated voter. It is so easy to find quote-unquote facts, but it is also easy to find actual facts. And I think it's great that your organization is providing that, and you can tell because people who are, I don't want to say conspiracy theorists or of that mind, but they would say, well, follow the money. Well, you're volunteers. You're not getting paid. So the sway one way or the other cannot, if there is one, and I don't believe that there is, but it can't be traced back to money because you're not getting paid. You are doing this because you believe in our right to vote. Men and women have shed blood for that, and I take it extremely seriously. I've always said I don't care which way someone votes. Just vote, but educate yourself. I look at, when the president lays a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier or visits a World War II memorial, those are people who they can't vote anymore. They fought so we could. Why wouldn't you take that seriously? And I think too often we get caught up in the malaise of well, my vote doesn't count. I don't think we are living in an age now where your vote counts more than ever, especially in Pennsylvania.
Yes. Yep, exactly. And you hit on a great point about not just voting, but being an informed voter. And that's where I think my number one, advice goes into doing your research. And it's being mindful of what resources you're getting your information from. When you look at a candidate website, it's good, but it's also their marketing, right?
Sure.
So you have to take that into account. You see political ads, which we're seeing a ton in Pennsylvania because we are a swing state. You have to be mindful of that they're coming from a certain position and they're trying to sway you one way. On our website, we link to nonpartisan resources like Vote 411. Ballotopedia is another great one. These are resources that, again, they're not biased, they're just presenting the information. They'll give you stats on like if they're a current elected official, how they voted in the government in the past to help you know where they align on certain issues. It'll provide history and background on the person so that you can see what they may have that's criteria that would make them a good candidate.
What do you say is do you have a theory or an idea as to the reason why voter turnout is so low?
I think, according actually to a 538 poll that was done in 2020, a lot of Americans are just disillusioned with politics. It's become so divisive, or they're disillusioned with the type of candidates or elected officials and what they're doing. They don't feel like they're representing themselves. And the other big hurdle is just people having some sort of barrier to being able to get to vote, whether it's that they don't have transportation, they don't know how to get to their polling place, they can't get off of work.
They may not know what their polling place is.
Yes,
Yeah, and
exactly.
you were just saying that in Franklin County it changed, didn't it?
Well, there are three that changed locations for the year, and those notices, I believe, just went out last week. So it's trying to make sure that some of those individuals, and we have it on our website too, posted, to make sure you're aware, like, and as Amy had said earlier, is go to the website, double check to make sure, am I going to the same place as I've done before? Just so you know that day of. And there are barriers. Amy and I were talking beforehand too, and we've had some churches contact us to find out, and are members of it, because they have people in their congregations who may not be able to get there, and try to see if we have some resources or how we can direct them as to where they would need to go, because sometimes not everybody drives.
Is there available transportation that is available to get you to your polling place if you're not able to drive?
There are some places. I know some other churches will also have volunteers that will help drive them to their locations. Outside of that, it's just trying to see if they can get in touch with a relative or a friend who can take it as well.
When someone shows up at a polling place that may not be theirs, do you know, I mean, I don't necessarily think asking you to speak for the Board of Elections, but is there a process that you know of that if you show up to the wrong polling place, will they be able to guide you to the correct one, or what would they do in that situation? Do you know?
I'm not sure,
Okay.
but the individual themselves could look on our website, and we have a link to a look up your polling place tool. So it's an online tool that you put your name, other information that may be connected to your voter registration, and it'll pop up right there and tell you exactly where you go to vote.
I asked that exact same question to Tiny a couple weeks ago because I was so worried about not knowing where to go. And I said, what if I go to the wrong place? Are they going to show me where to go? Are they going to take me there?
They're going to escort you and take you into custody? What are they going to do? I don't want to get arrested, Tiny. I'm just trying to vote.
Just trying to vote. Now, it sounds like your website is a really wonderful resource, and there's a lot available there. Do you do anything in the community that people can actually stop out and meet you and talk to you and get information that way too?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because we have made a real concerted effort to go to a lot of community events throughout Franklin County. A lot of the town festivals will have a booth set up that we're providing in-person information. We've also been working with the Chambersburg Area High School and Mercersburg Academy, and we'd love to work with other schools to provide information to the youth vote and being able to provide, whether it's high schoolers that are turning 18 or it's college students, really giving them information on how they can know how to vote. In addition, we've really worked on the low-income population because they historically have a low voter turnout. And so being able to provide them with information in person, because getting online can sometimes be a challenge. So we partnered with the Franklin County Housing Authority to be able to reach out to their residents, attend some of their community events, and provide that voting information for them.
How did you both get involved in this organization?
That's a good question. You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. I became involved with the coalition. As you go through life, you end up helping out in different organizations throughout your life. But you get to a point, and I'm at that point, where I need to find something I'm passionate about.
Absolutely.
And the Franklin County Coalition for Progress, our mission is to help improve social injustices and to help those who are underserved. And for me, that was my main focus with that, is this is one where I do believe that everybody, such as with the voting, and you had touched on it earlier, people, you have that right. You need to exercise those
Absolutely.
rights.
Sure.
And nobody should ever feel that they don't have the ability or the capability or the understanding to do the voting. And it's trying to, how do we lift them up to get them to do that piece? And there's other parts with the coalition as well, that we have some other organizations and other programs we offer through the year. And that was my main reason. And with Franklin Votes, because I was that person many years ago that I'd go to the polling place and I only knew maybe 2 of the candidates.
Sure.
I didn't know the rest of them, and I didn't know where to find information.
And I don't think that's unique to you or me. I think that's probably pretty common. I know we have a couple minutes left, so Amy, talk to us a little bit about how you got involved in this wonderful organization.
Yeah, so specifically with the voting, I actually have only been registered to vote for a few years now, and I didn't vote for a long time. And looking back now, from going from being a non-voter to now a super voter, I really just felt apathetic. I truly believed that my vote didn't count. And then locally, some things happened really at the borough council level where I live that just helped me realize, oh wow, these people are making decisions that directly affect me. And if I voted, I could help change who is in the leadership position. And so I went from not voting in historical elections, like when our first Black president was elected, to now making sure that my vote is heard in the primaries and the general elections. And I just want other people to really realize, too, the power of their vote.
Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us
Yes,
today
wonderful.
and educating our listeners and viewers. It's, Franklin Votes is the website,
Yes,
correct?
franklinvotes.org.
And Ken and Amy, thank you so much for being here on Let's Talk Tri-State.
Absolutely.
We really
you.
appreciate it. Coming up, we're going to take another look at news and sports. It's all powered by 2A Arms LLC, 2A and PA Firearms and Freedom.
If you'd like to be featured on an upcoming episode of Let's Talk Tri-State, call 717-597-9200 or email letstalk@921thegoat.com.